right, church, you know what day of the week it is. It's Wednesday. And that means it's time for this week's edition of Wednesday Wi-Fi. How is your divine connection? And my prayer for you this week and every week is that your divine connection is strong and unbroken, that you have full bars of connectivity as we head into this beautiful fall season. As you can see, the leaves around me are beginning to change. It's not quite peak season, but we're getting there. And during this fall season, I pray that as you round out the year, not just the week, that this will be the strongest finish to 2024, the strongest finish of any year you've ever had. And these last several months, your connection to the Lord will be incredible. We've been talking about what it means to live a blessed life. And by and large, everybody that I talk to, myself included, wants to know my life is blessed. And so we started in the Gospel of John, where Jesus spells out the starting point of a blessed life is a relationship with Him. That without a relationship with Jesus, it is impossible to have a blessed life. It cannot be done. But with Christ, by putting your faith, hope, and trust, clinging to Him, relying on Him, and trusting in Him, you are blessed. That's out of the gate. So if you are in a relationship with Jesus, you are blessed. You ought to say that right now to yourself. I am blessed. Amen. So then we jumped over to Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus' Sermon on the Mount is introduced with what are known as the Beatitudes. And He begins to lay out, blessed are the, blessed are the, blessed are the. And we have found our way to verse 8. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Now, immediately when I read this and began to study it, it took me back to a story that my mom told me when I was a child. She said, and this is, mind you, in the Catholic Church, nice and echoey. Nobody says anything except what the priest has instructed them to say. And I stormed up to the front of the church and began to shout, I want to see God. I want to see God. And much to my mother's horror, I'm sure, you know, this 4 or 5 year old boy screaming in the middle of the Catholic Church, I want to see God. And little did I know, though, some years later, I would meet God. And that really boils down to what we're talking about today. What does it mean? Blessed are the pure in heart. Now, if we're talking about purity in the purest sense, we cannot purify ourselves. So again, Jesus is the starting point. Your righteousness, my righteousness is as filthy rags. And so the purification of Jesus gives us a lens of clarity. But I do want you to note that, you know, Jesus didn't say blessed are the pure in language or blessed are the pure in actions, the pure in thought. No, He said blessed are the pure in heart. And by definition, that means blessed are the undivided in heart. And so when you singularly put your attention on God, there's a clarity that comes with that. And we know that in Proverbs 4:23, it says to guard your heart above all else. Because if God's got your heart, He's got everything else. Guard your heart above all else, for out of it flow the well springs or the issues of life. Jesus Himself said, it's not just words that come out of your mouth, but the words are the amplifier plugged into your heart. It's out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. It's out of the abundance of the heart you pursue all these actions. And that's why later, when Jesus begins to confront sin, He always, now in the Old Testament, it was action, action, action. Jesus is saying, no, that's really not what it is in this new covenant. It's birthed in your heart. And so when your heart is unified towards God, it has a clarifying effect to allow you to see God clearly. It's like Job at the end of his life, you know, at the end of sort of when the dust settled on all the tragedies that had happened. He said, you know, because his heart never was divided. From the onset of all the tragedy to the end when God blessed him. And when the dust settled, Job said what? He said, my ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. And so if you're struggling to see God in your life and in your circumstances, perhaps there's some form of division in your heart. Maybe your heart is divided in certain areas where you need to singularly unify your heart and your focus towards Jesus. Are there other things jockeying for the affection of your heart, pulling at your loyalties away from Jesus? And perhaps today you need to pray a simple prayer and ask God to unify your heart so that you will see clearly God in every circumstance and situation. And that really brings me to the sermon in 60 seconds, because that's exactly what happened with Paul and Silas. They're just following the leading of God. Their hearts are unified towards God. And even in a terrible prison sense, when life seemed to squeeze them, all that came out of them was more of God, because their hearts were aimed and unified towards serving the Lord. They could have grown bitter. They could have grown angry, but they didn't, because their hearts were unified. Their hearts were pure in that sense. And because of that, even in the worst of the worst, they saw God. This weekend's going to be incredible, church. We have a guest speaker coming all the way from Virginia. You may remember him. He interned here several years ago. His name's Edgar. He's flying up with his wife and his child, his beautiful daughter. And he's going to share. He's actually going to continue in the thread of Acts. So he'll be breaking down Acts chapter 17 this Sunday. We will have hot dogs after the second service, and I look forward to seeing you there, church. God bless you. Have a tremendous rest of your week.